Welcome everybody to our Sueur City Council meeting scheduled, regularly scheduled meeting, August 22, 2022. At this time, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I will ask the council if anybody would like to make a motion to approve this evening's agenda. You were all given your packets earlier in the week. I know there's been a change or two. You've been updated. At this time, I'll entertain any motions. Thank you, Councilmember Sullivan. Second. Councilmember Swanberg, thank you. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and have been made available to the City Council at least 2 days in advance of the meeting. These items will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the agenda and considered in normal sequence. At this time, I will ask our city administrator, Mr. Roby, to kind of review these items with us.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On this evening's consent agenda, several items. The first is approval of City Council minutes from the August 8th, 2022 regular meeting. Approved disbursements through today, August 22nd, including 5 purchases over $25,000, which include payment to Farner Asphalt for the airport pavement maintenance project of $146,532.92. Pearson Brothers for the 2022 street ceiling project of $133,271. WW Blacktopping for the airport south taxi lanes reconstruction project, $67,142.10. Minnesota Department of Revenue for our July 2022 city sales tax, $58,693. And Boltman Bank for engineering services, $38,053.20. Item C, approve the airport farmland lease extension. Item D, approve the police department forfeited vehicle sales. Item E, approve payment application number 1 for the airport pavement maintenance project to Farner Asphalt. Item F, approve payment application number 1, airport south tax lanes reconstruction project to WW Blacktopping. And approve the IUOE Local 49 2022 and 2023 contract MOU included in your packet.
Thank you, City Administrator Roby. Anybody have any questions, concerns, or comments about any of those agenda items? If not, I would ask for a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg.
Second.
Councilmember Williams, thank you. Any other comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to public comment. Public comment provides an opportunity for the public to address the council on items that are not on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Persons wishing to make comment must sign up in advance of the meeting and provide their name and address and identify themselves on the sheet listed above. At this time, we have nobody that wishes to address the council tonight. Moving on to the city administrator's update. Mr. Roby, this is your opportunity to update the community.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple things to update on tonight. Tomorrow, I'll be attending a meeting at Ridgeview Sueur Medical Center here in town. They've invited me to participate in their community health needs assessment meeting. So I'm looking forward to that. I've been part of those discussions on the other side of the aisle, so to speak, before. So I'm looking forward to that conversation with leadership. And the other item of note I'd like to mention is here. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of color. I can't take credit for making these. But Bridget Tuck and Jesse Zimmerman from the Sueur Public Library reached out to me, and they recently did a recap of the 2022 summer reading program that they asked me to share with council, and I'm happy to do so. Overall, they had over 1,770 cumulative visits to all of their different events that they had, adults, teens, and kids. 350 for their kickoff party, 216 at the drumming, 203 participants at the Sustainable Safari event, and so on and so forth. They issued 73 new library cards, gave away 207 free books. And by free, most of those would have come from support from the Friends of the Library, so much appreciation to them. And overall, over 50,000 minutes read this summer by kids aged 3 to 9, and a couple thousand different books and novels by older kids and adults. So really successful year for the library. We have a great partnership between the city, who the city owns the library building itself, provides maintenance for that. Our Public Works, water, wastewater team do a really great job. Building grounds do a phenomenal job supporting the library, and much appreciation to Jesse and the Friends of the Library for all the work that they do to support literacy efforts within our community. They had a great summer. Are there any questions for me today?
Anybody? Thank you for that recap, and it sounds like the summer reading program was a real success for the library, so thank you to everybody who's involved with that. It's wonderful. Moving on to the regular agenda. This time we're going to visit about the CSAH 36, declaring costs to be assessed, ordering preparations for the fall final assessment rule. I believe Mr. Roby will introduce Mr. Corey Beanfit.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. For our CSAH 36 project, we've there have been a number of steps over the last year or so that the city has boxes that the city has checked as we've gone through this project, and tonight is another one of those boxes, an important step milestone in this project, and that is declaring the cost to be assessed to property owners along the CSAH 36 project corridor, and ordering the preparation of the proposed final assessment roll, as well as calling for the assessment hearing. This is going to be very similar to those who followed the CSAH 22 assessment process. A couple of nuances with this, but in general, it's basically the same process. So we formally have to declare the costs that are going to be assessed, order the proposed final assessment roll, and then we'll ask council to call for a hearing at the September 26th regular city council meeting to hear from any members of the public who want to speak regarding the assessments. So this evening we have city engineer from Bolton Bank, Corey Beanfang, who's been involved very heavily in this entire project. Corey and I had a chance to touch base regularly, but walked through this all this morning, and he's here to walk us through it tonight. So I'll let you take it away, Corey.
Thank you, Joe. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. So we kind of resume our project delivery process here in regards to CSAH 36 South Main Street. And as Joe noted, we are obviously very much in construction, but this is kind of the final piece as far as the project delivery goes on the sides of the city here in our Chapter 429 process. So that's the authority for a city to specially assess abutting benefiting properties that are affiliated or adjacent to then a street utility project. So as Joe noted, really consistent with CSAH 22, kind of a really recurring theme as far as timing. We're just one council meeting late from when we did this same process on CSAH 22 in year 2020. So the proposed assessment, we reference a city policy that we have, as well as the Chapter 429. There's a state statute in regards to that. The state statute kind of lays out the timing and the order of these steps. And then our policy really speaks to how we formulate that benefit, and in the city of Sueur, allocate that special assessment. And how we do that is that benefit appraisal. So we do consult with a third party, a property appraiser, and they go through and they evaluate our project, evaluate the corridor, and make a recommendation of a monetary benefit associated with this with the street utility improvement. They'll often, and at least in past practice, identify the low and the high. And historically, our process has been to take the low. And so we'll talk about that later. But that report has been finalized. We're a little bit better and more timely, I'd say, in the assessment information on 36. So that's already been shared with the public. That was available even early winter 2022. So we do have then this final report signed. It's included in the packet, a link to it, as well as link to our website. And that's what the preliminary roll that is in your packet is based on. Some of the numbers here just as takeaways. So the preliminary assessment roll, until that's adopted, we identify that as preliminary. You can see the assessment amount there based on that benefit and allocated to each of the individual properties. A total summation of city costs that we're anticipating is just over that $3 million mark. The total county cost then is just short of $5 million, bringing the total project for CASAP 36 then just over that $8 million. And as far as the assessment, so really emphasizing the adjacent and abutting properties. And you can see our corridor there starts on South 3rd Street that we're all familiar with, goes the full length of South Main up to Ferry, and then from Ferry Street then picking up that one block of local length from the parking lot back to Main, and then from Main then up to 4th Street, connecting in an improvement that we did on 22. So stopping at that intersection. Things to note then, approximately 107 properties. The roll, I think we would look to maybe refine that a little bit in the final, in the sense that we do have every adjacent property, but there will be a distinction made for properties that were assessed on the 2022 corridor. We aren't reassessing those folks with this 36 project. They've already received their benefit in their assessment, so we'd look to clean up some things. But total property count is in that 107, and the preliminary roll does a good job at distinguishing those. It's accurate in the idea of ones that have already been previously assessed, ones that would be newly assessed with this project. And an important piece when you're reviewing the benefit appraisal is there's a couple kind of four-mount distinctions. One is the type of roadway. So on 36, we have an urban corridor. For folks that were following 22, we had urban, we had rural. And then another distinction that kind of simplifies 36 here is it's all a reconstruction. Where at 22, we had some different project improvements. So this benefit appraisal is one report, one cover, and is speaking to urban reconstruction projects. And then where the distinction of appraisal or the assessment value comes in is then the use of the lot, the use of the property. Single family residential, those are your single family homes. We have kind of a baseline of $7,500 assessment for those. So that's consistent with the last three projects we've delivered in the community. And then where you start to deviate from that value then is if you have a single family residential that's oversized. The appraisal references that as subdividable or splittable. Those have a little bit greater of a value, and the idea that those could become two single family lots. And then we have a further distinction then and variability in a business type use, an apartment type use, and public. That would be like our city facilities, which we have a number of them in this quarter, obviously with the library and city hall. So all of those that have a range of value based on the appraiser's calculation in that. So that's what really sets the assessment for the city of Sueur, and it's probably the most literal to the Chapter 429 process in the sense that assessments are supposed to tie to benefit, and our benefit appraisal is directly speaking to that benefit. So pretty defendable approach, I think, to how we do our special assessments based on our current policy. One of the pieces here that has been in the packets kind of leading up to tonight has been the understanding and acknowledgement that this corridor did necessitate a fair bit of easement acquisition. There was easement acquisition for your retaining wall reconstruction, the sidewalk, mostly affiliated with the new sidewalk, the continuation or extension down South Main, both sides, as well as the new electric easements, the ability to go from overhead to underground, specifically on the west side of Main. Some of those negotiations did require or I guess provide for the city to offer to pay the special assessment. And I've listed those three properties, or 5 properties here tonight. 3 of those properties have been previously made aware to council through the MOU process, the memorandum of understanding. And there's 2 other properties here that were listed that didn't require that length of memorandum. So we can touch on them quick. 606, that was a garage removal property. 707 was a new sidewalk, temporary easement acquisition. It encompassed a fair bit of mature tree removals and included a double lot easement acquisition there. So we negotiated an assessment on that. 616 and 548 were a member of understanding that had to do with the temporary sidewalk easement. And 503 had to do with a permanent and temporary acquisition. It was the one permanent acquisition that we had for the sidewalk extension. And so then the acknowledgement of that is that the city then, those would still be assessed. It's just a commitment then for the city to cover that payment. And that would come after the formal adoption. And as of this time, we're anticipating that to be in October. So really there's two, as Joe alluded to, there's kind of two processes tonight, and they're ordered in the proper order. And the idea that tonight we're acknowledging the special assessment process, that this project is intending to assess those properties that are abutted and receiving benefit from the improvement. And tonight that first step is acknowledgement of that, declaring the cost to be assessed, and then ordering the preparation of that assessment roll. We do have that preliminary roll in your packet. And that is anticipated to be the role brought forth at the assessment hearing. But tonight is that formal acknowledgement, and that's enacted by a resolution. So resolution 2022-034. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions that council or Mr. Mayor you may have.
Anybody have any questions at all? Mr. Beanfang, real quick, with these assessments, explain to young homeowners how they work. You can pay them right away, or they can get rolled into your taxes.
Yeah, so the important piece to notice here, and we'll reference that in the next action in regards to the hearing, but we are obligated by law to notice every property of the anticipated assessment. We have to publish in our paper, as well as send an individualized mailing to the property. That mailing is 2 pages long. It acknowledges when the assessment hearing is going to be held. It acknowledges the amount of the proposed assessment, and then there it goes through the payment process, anticipated interest. And I believe it does a good job of laying that out, Mr. Mayor, as far as what they can expect through that process. Certainly riddled with project contact information should folks have further questions or may not understand, but that is accurate.
Anybody else? If not, I will entertain any motions for any council members to motion for R 2022-034, declaring costs to be assessed and ordering preparation of proposed assessments, understanding city payment for 5 specific properties. This time I'll take any motions.
Mr. Mayor, I'll so move.
Thank you, Councilmember Krogan.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Sullivan. Any other comments, questions, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'll just jump in if that's okay, Joe. So then the next item, order strategically after then the ordering of the proposed assessment and roll is then the setting of the hearing of the proposed assessment. So part of a 429 project delivery, there's two distinct hearings, an opportunity to hear from the public formally. The first is the improvement hearing. We did that last fall. The second step then is the assessment hearing. So both of those have some published requirements as well as an opportunity again to hear from the public. This is a mandatory step under that Minnesota statute, again, that 429. And it is an opportunity for the council to open a formal hearing and to hear all thoughts and considerations, objections in regards to the assessment. The idea with the improvement hearing is really the project area and the improvement that's planned. The assessment is acknowledging that's already taken place, it's happened. It's really fixating on the evaluation of the assessment and that tie of benefit and thoughts or comments in regards to that. Those can be received both orally and in writing. And it's an important distinction to note that the benefit appraisal is really a recommendation to council. It's to give some foundation to how we formulate that benefit, that special assessment, but council has ultimate authorization and distinction as far as what those amounts look like. And so there's an opportunity then after that hearing to amend the roll before that formal adoption. And the schedule that we've sort of adopted here with our process specifically to the 429, and we really enacted this on the CASAT 22 project, So tonight we had ordered the hearing as of August 22nd. That mail notice requirement, I've noted that in here. We've got to provide at least a 2-week notice of mail notices. So this kind of full month gap gives us good opportunity to notice and get those mailings out in enough time to meet that requirement. We anticipate that, I think, after Labor Day. That again, Mr. Mayor, is where all that extra information would be contained to educate folks that maybe haven't been following or haven't gone through it before. And then having that actual hearing then on September 26th, that'd be exactly 2 meetings from now. That'd be a regular city council meeting. And then we've adopted this process where then we would close the hearing that night, but we wouldn't formally adopt, just giving time for council and folks to either consider comments made or address comments before we actually go through and adopt this. That would also, I guess, provide an opportunity to, if there was an amendment that was believed to be justified, there'd be ample time to kind of fully vet that too. So this is the anticipated schedule that we're proposing to proceed on. So really the mandate of this action then is that we're formally setting that hearing. Again, that would be that 6:30 p.m. regular city council meeting on the 26th held here at City Hall. The last meeting that we had, the last assessment hearing on CASAT 22 is actually held virtually. So that'll be a bit of a change between the two projects. But again, those hearing notices are published in the official paper and mailing. That's really that mandate to do this ordering of the hearing, so we can properly notice for those, properly notice in those notices for this hearing. So then the action requested tonight, within that then resolution, the next number, that 035, is the request for City Council to adopt that resolution ordering the assessment hearing for September 26, 6:30 for the CASAT 36 project.
Any council members have any questions on the hearing assessment? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept resolution R 2022-035 regarding the improvement assessment.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg and Councilmember Sullivan. Seconded. Any other comments?
Excuse me, real quickly, it's to adopt that, it's to adopt
Ordering the
adoption.
R 2022-035, ordering the assessment hearing for the CASAT 36 improvement project. Councilmember Swanberg and Councilmember Sullivan, seconded. No other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Beanfeld.
Thanks, Corey.
Yep. Thanks, Boris. Which takes us into regular agenda item 7B, the recreation facility master plan approval. Mr. Roby, you want to take us down that road?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, and actually, Mr. Beanfang is going to lawyer for a little bit in the event that there are questions on this one, because this agenda item involves him as well. So I invite him to jump in at any point if there's anything you'd like to add. Please feel free. So at the last couple of council meetings, we've either directly addressed the recreation facilities master plan, or at least it's been referenced in a secondary or tertiary manner. But tonight is the formal presentation of the proposal for the recreation facilities master plan. And the ask of council tonight is for approval of that proposal. So just to take us back a little bit, back in 2021, the mayor called a task force, the community center task force, which met several times in 2021 to look at operations at the community center, the offerings that the community center and the recreation department more generally provide. To solicit direct feedback from both users of the community center as well as some non-users of the community center around what those recreational goals should be for the community, what those offerings should look like, and really how they're working right now. The culmination of that task force, in conjunction with conversations that city staff had in late 2021, was the idea to propose to City Council that we budget $40,000 in 2022 to complete a recreation facilities master plan. The idea of the master plan would be to really lay out the current and future recreation needs of the community. We have in the community center, in the entire recreation program, we have a lot of assets that the city has maintained for a number of decades now. And this will be the first study that the city has completed to really evaluate our facilities meeting the needs of this community today and in the near future. City Council did approve a $40,000 budget for this plan in the 2022 budget adoption. Early in 2022, January, a request for proposal was issued by city staff requesting proposals for the completion of this master plan. We received one proposal back in late February, early March of this year. Given the timing of previous city administrator Crewell's departure and city council focused on filling that position, this item was from a staff level. Staff certainly reviewed the proposal, but no formal action was taken on pursuing it until June of this year. At that time, city staff reached out to Bolton & Mank, who had provided the proposal in response to the initial RFP. In July, just last month, city staff, Public Services Director Rich Gachera, Recreation Manager Allison Watkins, Public Works Manager Scott Schrader, and I met with representatives from Bolton & Mank and from an organization that Bolton & Mank had retained to complete the bulk of the work of their proposal, which is the 292 Design Group Minneapolis. And the purpose of that meeting in July was really to look at the proposal that had been provided and fine tune a couple of the areas, clarify some of the things that had been issued in the original RFP around scope of what the city, really define what the city was looking for, what the city was hoping to generate from this process. And it was a really great conversation, and the proposal that we have that's in the packet tonight reflects some of those minor tweaks that were made to the proposal based upon the feedback that Bolton & Mank and 292 has solicited from city staff. Ultimately, what we're looking at, so the city had already approved a Parks and Open Spaces and Trails Master Plan in the past. And so we wanted to make sure that we recognize and appreciate that work that was done and not duplicate efforts with this master plan. So we really honed in on, I would say, 3 component units of a broad recreation program: the community center in its current footprint, Bruce Frank Field in its current footprint, and the outdoor pool. Bruce Frank Field technically being a public park, but given its proximity to the community center and some longstanding capital needs that need to be met yet, felt appropriate to include that, and the outdoor pool including that, because even though it is part of the Legion Park footprint, it is part of the recreation program that the city operates. So the proposal in front of council tonight suggests a roughly 5-month-long process, 5 to 6 months long process, beginning in September, right away next month, with community engagement. And that's community engagement at several different levels, reaching out to individual citizens, members of the community, certainly having some conversations with our larger partners around recreation, including the school district, our sports associations who utilize these really heavily, and re-engaging the community center task force as well. Following the receipt of feedback from these groups and discussion with city staff, Bolton & Mank and the 292 Design Group would then take this feedback back, compare that to what we're currently spending, what our current facilities are capable of providing, and then really bringing together some concepts for based on what the community wants, what we're currently spending, and what we have, and what the community would support long-term, what are some proposals for building up the future of recreation within our community? We know what we currently have. We know what we currently spend. One of the things that we really don't know is what would the community support now? What does what can the market bear? What is our market for a recreation program? We know it extends beyond the bounds of city limits, but how far? What types of programs could bring in others from outside the community? What are our own community, citizens' needs, things like that. So I'm just going to walk through some of this policy. The proposed project schedule, consideration of the contract and the proposal today, community engagement, as I mentioned, beginning in late September through mid-October. And even prior to that, I would say anytime between tonight and late September, engaging with 292 Bolton Bank and city staff to really start to develop a plan around that community engagement and fine tune this project schedule. And then start looking at preliminary concepts as early as late October and mid-November based on the feedback that we've received. Drafting a master plan document from mid-November through December, finalizing that master plan within the first month of 2023, and then ultimately bringing something to council by late February, early March of next year. And one thing that I think is important to note here is something that at least is important to me, and I know is important to our partners in Bolton Bank and 292 is, we solicit some feedback from the community. I see that as not just necessarily a one-time, tell us what you want, then we go out and build it. But, as we develop things like our preliminary concepts, if we need some clarification on something, and we need to ask the school district, certainly we develop some preliminary concepts. We might go back to the school district and ask some clarifying questions, get some additional feedback from them or the associations, things like that. So those preliminary concepts really being living concepts, going back between the design team and city staff. I won't read through all of this, but this is ultimately the scope of the services, from kickoff meeting, working through a market analysis review and a business plan, feasibility. That really gets to what do we think the city and the community can financially support, right? We can only presume at this point that what the community would love to have and what the community can afford to have are probably two different things. So what's, finding the right balance there is going to be really important. And then building some cost estimates for features of each of these concepts. And then ultimately bringing this back to City Council for review and approval of the rec facilities master plan. So again, tonight, I'll entertain any questions, but the action requested tonight is approval of the proposal in front of us from Bolton Bank and 292 Design Group for the development of the recreation facilities master plan.
Thank you, Mr. Roby. I just want to add that I believe the community center is creeping up on 50 years old. And we've never had any in-depth study much like this ever done with the ever-changing needs and wants that our community has. It'd be good to have a study. And I think the timing of it is good with the changes we're seeing with the school district and with the construction of the new grade school that's going to happen. So I think the timing with this is good. And it was considered in our 2022 budget. So I feel there's a real need for this. I would ask that any council members, if you have any questions, this is your opportunity to ask Mr. Roby. Not Mr. Sullivan.
Joe, I don't know if this is a question for you or for Corey. But I see we're right at the 40,000 that we budgeted. And I do see that we, in the motion, specifically for Bolton and 292 Design Group. I also see where there's additional costs depending on some optional services by Baylor and King. Is that correct?
Yeah, if I may, Joe and council, the clarification of Baller King is that they're being brought on as a financial, to really help us with the market analysis and review. Their preference is to operate virtually. We did do our kickoff as a hybrid, and I think we've had good success in the city. So as long as Baller King can support in that capacity, they'd be a sub to 292. That additional service is only if their physical presence is required in the sewer. We think as a team and with city staff that we can deliver that successfully. So the proposal ask is a not to exceed 40,000.
Perfect. I mean, I've seen it.
No, that's fair. Just something that they have to have clarified, and we feel we can support that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Anything else?
Just one more comment. You mentioned the community center, Bruce Frank Field, and the outdoor pool. I would suggest that you should also include the softball field with that. I think with the two fields disappearing with the new construction, there's going to be a need.
That's an excellent point, Councilmember Schmalberg, and what I would add to that, and Corey and I have talked about this, and Public Services Director Chair and I have talked about this as well, that inevitably that will come up in conversation and will be a component of this. The reason it's not technically called out is because the city doesn't own those.
No, the city does own the part, the softball field, the city owns. The one by the Methodist Church.
Oh, Joe Eagle?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the field I'm talking about.
okay.
The ones the school owns are gonna be disappearing with the construction.
Correct.
There's going to be a need in the city for some more fields.
Yeah, so I guess, so we don't have anything planned specifically to look at Joe Eagle, but the question of the disappearance of the Barony fields I'm planning to have that conversation as part of this.
Perfect.
And that's why I think, to the mayor's point about the timing of this being almost perfect is, if this had been done 6 months ago, we wouldn't necessarily have had those conversations. But I'm quite certain if it doesn't come up, I will bring it up, that the community, they ask, and the reason that we want to involve the associations is for that type of reason. Obviously, the baseball associations utilize Bruce Frank Field. The softball association does not, but they utilize Barony Field. So one of the needs I expect they will express is the need for softball fields. I haven't spoken with the Lewises about it yet, but I anticipate hearing from them. And so while it's not directly addressed in this proposal, it will come up.
Good concern, Councilmember Swanberg. Thank you. Any other comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve proposal from Bolton Mink and 292 Design Group for recreational facilities master plan.
So
Second. Councilmember Sullivan, Councilmember Schluter, seconded. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to item number 7C. That would be the 2022 street maintenance project. Mr. Roby.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The action requested tonight on this is approval of resolution R 2022-031, which accepts the completed work for the 2022 street maintenance project that the City Council approved earlier this year. Pearson Brothers, the payment has actually already been approved earlier in the agenda this evening. This is a one-time payment to Pearson Brothers, but the resolution is the acceptance of the work that was completed for that payment.
Very good. Any other questions, concerns? If not, Mr. Roby just read the motion. Do I have one?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg. Councilmember Williams, seconded. All those, any other comments, questions, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to item 7D, 2022-032, authorization to execute FAA Airport Infrastructure Grant 3-27-046-019, 2022. Mr. Roman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This, as well as the following agenda item, are almost identical. There are two separate grants. This is the first grant the city applied for through the FAA to support the taxi lane and pavement maintenance project. In order for city staff to be able to sign for that grant, council was asked to pass this resolution. Should council pass this resolution and the following resolution, I will then be able to sign on behalf and submit the grant documentation to the FAA.
Very good. Any other questions, anybody? If not, I will entertain a motion. You have the numbers for the grant in front of you. I'm not going to read them again. I will entertain a motion.
So moved. Excuse me. Mr. Mayor, that would be resolution R.
Resolution R 2022. Yes, -32. Thank you. Mr. Swanberg, thank you.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councilmember Krogan. Any other comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on again to R 2022-03.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, let's jump right into it.
Yes, wonderful.
So similar to the last resolution, R 2022-033 would similarly authorize city staff to execute this second FAA grant to support constructing a taxi lane at the airport.
Thank you. The grant number is in front of you there. You can read that. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move to approve resolution R 2022-033.
Thank you, Councilmember Krogman.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Schleter. Comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to R 2022-036, field of the Minnesota Legislature and the Governor's Office.
I'll take it if it's all right, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
So this resolution was recommended by the Coalition for Greater Minnesota Cities. In effect, the Minnesota State Legislature was unable to pass a bonding bill during the regular session. Similarly, they were unable to pass a tax bill that, in the view of many greater Minnesota cities, our city included, significantly addresses the local government aid that our city and many other cities will provide. So the city of Sueur, much like most other cities in the state, particularly those in greater Minnesota, rely very heavily on local government aid from the state of Minnesota to support core functions of the government. Public safety being the largest component of that. The proposed, and I shouldn't say proposed because it's been finalized, the certified LGAMLs for 2023 were recently released, and the city of Sueur will receive slightly less than $20,000 more than we are receiving in 2022, reflecting a 1.9% increase in LGA next year over this year's level. I don't have to tell anyone here that that's not enough to feed the bulldog, given the economic situation in which we find ourselves. And so this is it's recommended by, again, the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities that cities pass this resolution. The resolution here uses consistent language recommended by the CGMC, and pass this resolution calling for the governor to call a special session and asking the Minnesota legislature to participate in a bipartisan way to pass a new tax bill that would address LGA and approve increased LGA for 2023 over what currently certified numbers are. It also calls on the governor and legislature to work together to pass a bonding bill. There are no specific projects that would directly affect us. If we have the opportunity, I can certainly give them some, but there were none that were proposed by the city of Sueur in last year's session. Certainly bonding projects are are key to funding infrastructure. And we, even if we don't necessarily have any projects lined up, many of our sister cities do. And from wastewater treatment to bridges and roads, these are critical components of city infrastructure that need to get funded. So requested for council tonight is to approve resolution R 2022-036, which urges the legislature and the governor's office to jointly participate in a special session to pass a bonding bill and a tax bill increasing 2023 LGA levels.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilmember Sullivan. It's been seconded by Councilmember Schlater for resolution R 2022-036. Any other discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? The ayes have it.
And I will add, just for the public, if it's all right, Mr. Mayor, that this resolution, the passage of the resolution will be signed by the mayor, and city clerk will be shared, will be sent to the governor's office, all the leaders of the Minnesota State Legislature, as well as our local legislators, Representative Brian Farr and Senator Rich Drahan.
Thank you. Moving on to comments, reports, items of appreciation. Council members, this is your opportunity to share anything that's going on in the community. This time we'll start with Councilmember Krogman.
I don't have anything, sir.
Nothing tonight from Councilmember Krogman. Councilmember Schlater.
I did attend an HRA meeting last week. Other than that, nothing else.
Thank you, Councilmember Schlater. Councilmember Sullivan.
Nothing to report tonight.
Nothing. Councilmember Swanberg.
Just a shout out, thank you to all of our seasonal employees. I know many of them are headed back to college or back to high school. Wish you the best of luck and hope to have you back next year. Thanks for your efforts.
Thank you for that comment. Councilmember Williams.
I'd just like to comment that I appreciate the library report. I like to see programs that you have and then what you have, your goals with it basically have met. So nice to see those numbers that look that way. They touched a lot of people, a lot of kids. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams. And I have nothing to share tonight. Mr. Rober, you've had your opportunity. Do you have anything you want to close with?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Swanberg. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting closed. Thank you.